Hey, Deck It Out Juniors, let's get started on this month's Deck It Out box. So in your box, you're going to make this cool shaker frame with your monogram. You will have an extra monogram piece which you can put on anything you'd like. And you will have this adorable cosmetic bag. We will also be painting this too. Super fun. So in your box, let's unpack it and let's see what's in your box. Double check that you have all your supplies. You'll have your letter, okay, and it's just a solid cutout. You can put that aside. Remember, that's a separate piece. So this does not go towards this shaker file, okay? Then for your shaker, you will have a letter and it will be thicker. You will have this clear, and then you will have a thinner overlay, which will go over the top. You should have a frame, and then your shiplap background, okay? You will also have the canvas accessory bag. You will also have 3 paint colors, 2 white sponges, a yellow sponge. You will have this touch-up brush, and then the sequins that go with the color you selected to paint with, and then glue. Okay, so let's get started. First things first, I want you to think about what colors you're gonna paint each piece. I'm gonna paint the background white. So to paint the background white, use your larger sponge and then put some paint on it and then brush it kind of off. Now, if you wanna keep these shiplap grooves, don't push paint in the grooves, okay? So you're just gonna pull the paint across, and as long as you don't have too much paint, you will not get it in the grooves, okay? So it's kind of like a back and forth painting here. You don't have to dab like we usually do. We will save that for the M, okay? And you're just gonna paint it back and forth. Now, you might want to do a couple of coats of white to make it brighter, okay? So if you wanna do that, oops, and don't try to push it in your paint pile. If you wanna do that, make sure each coat of paint dries in its entirety before you put the next coat of paint on, okay? So I'm gonna let this sit. I will most likely come back and add another coat of paint, but I'm gonna let that sit. So I'm moving it off to the side over here. I'm gonna take a look at my frame, and I'm going to paint my frame this purple color. So I'm gonna use my small sponge, and I'm actually going to dab. Now, you do not have to dab, but I am dabbing because I don't want a lot of paint to slide down the sides. Now, the sides are burnt edges, which means that you can or you don't have to paint them. So when I do dab a little bit and pull it across, I'm trying to pull it straight off so that it doesn't add paint to the burnt edge look that I'm liking. Okay, so you're gonna wanna continue painting this piece. Again, as many coats as you want to get it to look the way you desire. Either dab or pull the paint across, just be careful. Now, I do like to have baby wipes on hand or damp paper cloth on hand when I am painting so that I can wipe up anything that might drip or spill. But you'll notice that this is pretty light, and I want it a little bit darker, a little bit more solid colored, so I will be putting a second coat of paint on. Now, here's the fun thing. I can already start applying because this is basically wet on this side because I didn't put a lot of paint on. I'm not using thick paint coats. I'm also making sure that I pull the paint smooth so that there aren't any bubbles or drip marks, okay? I might come back and paint another coat of paint, maybe. I'll see about that. This is the last piece that you'll need to paint for your shaker frame, and I'm going to paint that pink. So for this, put some paint on. This is way too much. You're gonna wanna dab it off, and then you will dab here, okay? And again, I'm not trying to get it dripping down the sides because it is the burnt edges and I like that look. So I'm just trying to dab on the top. It will bounce a little bit and you'll want to be careful because this is not very thick wood. So you don't want it to bounce and break. If it does break, you can just glue it together. Okay, so we'll just dab it. Now, I was thinking when I was painting these that you could even come in with your touch-up brush or maybe even the sponge and you could paint your hearts a different color. You could paint the swirls a different color. That would be really fun to incorporate some other colors in there. We are going to use the detail brush for the glue, but you could definitely use it to do the details on the hearts and then just wait for that paint to dry, or I usually take a baby wipe and kind of clean it off, and that would work out well too. Okay. This pink is covering much better than the purple, but I'm gonna go over it one more time. So it's a nice bright pink. Okay, and then you want all of your pieces to dry before we start assembly. So while we're waiting for these pieces to dry, I will show you how to paint your canvas bag. Now for this part, you may want to lay down something or flip your paper over. You might even want to start with this first. I'm gonna just lay it down like this and I'll put my canvas down. Now this is a stencil. So in order to paint this, you're going to flip it over, smooth it out, peel from one corner. If any of the blue comes up, like you can see here, push it right back down. Okay, you'll want to take this backer piece, the white backer piece. So now these two are together, put that aside. It's a sticker, so make sure the sticky side is up. You're going to want to open your canvas bag and put the paper inside it. Okay, see how it's in there? That's going to help prevent any bleeding through the bag. Now don't apply pressure until you have this where you want it. I usually eyeball, or I was measuring earlier with my hands. So once you are happy with it, push it down, smooth it out, give it a good push, because remember it is a sticker and you want that sticker to stay down. Then you'll come to the corner and you'll hold it down because it is now on fabric, it's on a canvas. So it's not going to stick as well as if you've done a project with us with wood. It sticks a lot better. When you're on fabric, it doesn't stick as well, but it still does its job. Okay? Smooth it out one more time. And now when you paint on canvas, you want next to no paint. Very thin paint. So it looks kind of blotchy, and that's okay, because remember, you can come back another time and do another thin coat of paint before you pull up the stencil. Okay, so you'll just want to make sure that you cover this to your liking. You might want it a little bit more rugged and rustic, and that's okay too. That would make really cool. I'm gonna just make sure I get this nice and solid. And I'm using very little paint to prevent bleeding. Okay, so there's my M. And now I'm gonna put a different color around the outside. So do the same thing you did before. Okay, and just go around. And it looks like this purple is covering really nicely. So I don't even think I'll need to go back and do any more. It looks good to me. When you are done painting it and you've painted it to your liking, you can peel up your stencil. Okay, how awesome is that? Super fun. So you'll want this to dry. This will be great for your pencils, your pens, any maybe cords to your devices, anything. Lots of great things can go in your canvas bag. I'm gonna set that aside. I will be doing a second coat on my projects so they are nice and dry. I'm going to do that and we'll come back and we'll glue in just a minute. Okay, while my second coat of paint is still finishing up drying, when you paint your letter, okay, you could color this with a marker if you wanted. You could add polka dots if you wanted. But when you paint your letter, you'll want to do the same thing that we did before, and you'll want to dab it unless you want those sides painted. Okay, so you'll just dab this and then again, put on as many coats of paint as you would like. And then this can be used anywhere you would like it. Maybe it's just gonna sit in your room, or maybe you wanna put a ribbon on it and hang it on your door or hang it in your locker at school. This could really go anywhere. Maybe you have an old frame and you wanna paint the outside and then put this on the inside, or maybe you want to put this on a bulletin board, something like that. So it's just a really fun letter that you really can do anything with. And again, you'll just dab your paint and then you'll have it ready to go, which is really fun. Okay, here we go. So this is dry. We're gonna get started with the gluing part. So you'll take your glue and you'll want to glue down your frame first, okay? So you'll flip it over and you don't need a ton because this is super glue, and let me tell you, it is super, okay? And if you get it on your hands, it will, you know, glue your hands to whatever you were touching with it. So if your fingers get glued together or to the wood or to the bottle, it does happen. So be careful, okay? Okay, now you might have noticed that I took my hands and I kind of went around the edge. I'm making sure that it's all square because this is your frame and it will stand by itself if you want it to, but you need to make sure that it's all squared up in order for it to do that. Okay? Now, while that's drying, you can carefully take this letter. Now, you want to flip it over, okay? And you're going to apply the glue to the letter. Now, you don't want any holes because when we put the sequins inside, you don't want any parts where the sequins could go out, okay? So, you're going to use your little detail brush when we put your letter on your shiplap frame, because if there's any bubbles of paint that kind of ooze onto the inside, you'll want to smooth those out so they dry faster. Otherwise, your sprinkles, I call them, but your sequins will stick to them and then they will always be in that spot. Okay, so gonna center it. Again, I'm just using my eyeballs to eye it up, okay? And then I do see right here I have a little bit, and right here I have a little bit. And so I'm just giving it a little wipe, okay? And now I want my frame and my M to dry, okay? So I'm gonna let them set. You can grab your acetate paper and it looks foggy, right? Well, that's because there's a clear coat that we left on it that you have to peel up. And the clear coat protects it so it doesn't get scratched. So you'll kind of want to work it so that you can find a little piece and then you'll peel it off. Now, this has coating on the front and on the back. So flip it over then and kind of push it with your nail or with your finger and try to get it started in a corner or on an edge, and This one is gonna be finicky. There we go. Okay, so while your frame and your M are drying, or your letter, I should say, you're going to peel that off, and now it is clear. Okay, so now you can see the clear. Okay, I'm gonna set that aside because we need to put glue on, or sorry, we need to put your sprinkles in, or your sequins in. So this is still drying, but you'll wanna put these in. Okay, so you can wait a little bit longer than I'm waiting, that is okay. And I put some in each part of the M. Okay, and they will stick to you. So just be aware of that. And you'll want to make sure you get them in the M. Okay, and if any are outside the M, pull them back in, because it's fun to have a lot of the sequins in your M. Okay, and kind of disperse them between your letters. So for this letter, so my daughter's name starts with an M, so I'm doing this one for her, and I put the sequins in each part because I don't think that they're really gonna shake all the way through. And this one's kind of being a bugger. Okay, there we go. All right, now you're gonna take your glue and you're gonna go along this edge and you're gonna put glue on. Again, following that same idea that we did before, is that you don't want any to drip. Getting distracted here by the sequins. You don't want any to drip inside, okay? And you want it to be covered really well because you don't want any sequins to come out, okay? Now, if you put a lot of glue on, when you push down the acetate to adhere it, the glue will spill over the edge, okay? So you kind of wanna do a thin coat and you wanna smooth it out so that it doesn't have like pools of glue over the edge. Okay. Once you've done that, you don't need to wait. Just maybe dust it off, and then you can line up your acetate and put it on. Okay? How great is that? And then I'm gonna take my little detail brush because I see a little bit spilling out on the outside, which is better than on the inside. Okay? And you'll want it to sit and dry. And I did not push it down really hard, okay, because it's already made contact. While that's setting up and drying, take your letter that you painted, flip it over, repeat the process. You're gonna do a smooth coat of glue on the entire M. Now on this M, we have these really fun hearts and swirls. I would put glue on the hearts. You can put glue on the swirls if you want, but I would for surely put them on the hearts because they're larger, and it will help hold the M or your letter in place. Okay, and again, you want to try to smooth out the glue and then follow it around to every part. Okay, and then again, remember, it will glue your finger, so be careful when you are shifting this around. Okay, ask an adult for help if you need it, and then you'll flip it over. And if you see some big loops, like I see some right here before I even put it down, I'm just gonna swipe them so that it doesn't go all over the acetate. And then your letter will cover up the edge from before. How cool is that? Okay, now you're gonna wanna let this project sit, okay? I would say let it sit for maybe a half hour to an hour, and then you can come back and check it out. But I would let it sit just so that all the glue adheres, because you want all those layers to stick together, Okay, so this is your project this month, Deck It Out Juniors. You have your shaker M, your letter M, and then your canvas accessory bag, which is so fun, right here. And I will show you with my other example that these are really fun shakers. So when you shake them, your sequins kind of fall all over, okay? I hope you had a great time crafting with me this month, Deck It Out Juniors, and please have your family or you post on our social media so that I can see all of your great projects. I'm excited to see the color combinations that you create. Thanks for joining us this month.